as we let more folks in, a note to potential future Zoom facilitators, the chat is only in everybody's window since they joined. So like if we let in my friend Christopher right now, Christopher's chat will not have the links that I pasted before Chris joined, so I have to repaste it again in the chat. So definitely something to pay attention to.
I feel like I was just used as an example.
You were.
Uh-oh.
How's it going, Chris?
All right. How are you? How's everybody?
Good. Good. We're just jumping in and signing into that Google Doc, mostly as a way to get a sense for sharing a Google Doc in a wild meeting with 40 people on it. So if you don't have the link yet, I shared it one more time. If y'all are just joining, we are jumping over to that Google Doc to sign in if you'd like to, just as a way to kind of get a sense for sharing a Google Doc in a Zoom meeting. And you can jump over there and add your name, your pronouns, and your favorite summer treat or activity. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing a slide deck real quick here so we can get in. Thank you all so much for joining us today and taking some time out of your busy weeks. I'm sure hang out with us and learn about more Zoom stuff. My name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I'll be doing a little bit more of an intro in a second. Go ahead and feel free to use the chat to ask questions, and we'll check in a few times about those things that you have updates for. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just a slideshow way real quick. So that is going to look different. Here we go. Cool. And again, a reminder that this session is being recorded. Maggie, you're good to keep up with chat and weight room. Cool. Thank you. I'll open them up too, just so I see them. Excellent. So thank you for joining us today for Advanced Features in Zoom. There's my email address, emily@wildlysupportive.com. And y'all should have seen the link in the chat. We might need to paste it one more time, but if you want to go jump over there and sign in to the sign-in document, that's a great way to get a feel for being in a Zoom session and then also having a shared doc that you might be contributing to. And my recommendation is that you set your screen to gallery view, which is right now we're in a shared screen mode. So you'll probably have a little stripe of participants somewhere and you see a few of our videos, but not every single basically 50-person video that's on here. And then I recommend opening the chat and participant list if you'd like to. The participant list gives you those little icons like yes or no or raise hand. So it's handy to have that open, and it will also give you a list of all the names of folks. And the chat box in shared screen mode might pop out, and you go ahead and at the top of your screen, if you're not joining on a computer, there should be a thing that says mute, stop video, and then participants, and then my chat was in ... Y'all's might be like a chat and you just click on that and I'll jump off. No worries, Julie. We definitely know there are people who can't join with video. That's totally fine. If you want to change your name, you can do that from the chat or the participants list. Next to your name, if you hover over that, there's a little box that says mute and then one that says more. And you can rename yourself in the more window and you can put like your name, your pronouns, your location, whatever you want. A lot of it, you know, mine just says Emily Wirtz and then she, hers, and then you can't really see Austin, Texas, but that is my full name. So if you want to get a sense for that, you can go ahead and do that. And then ideally for the session, you'll be on mute a lot of the time, but there'll be times where it's like, hey, does anybody have things to pop up and say? That's totally fine. And I would love to see your lovely faces, and it's more participatory if you have your videos on. Definitely when we go into breakout rooms, if at all possible, please try to have your video on. Some of y'all joining maybe in a way that you can't have videos on, or in a connection that's so slow that it's hard to do video. So that's totally fine. You can just join by audio. But when we do go into the breakout rooms to experience those, like the more people that can be on video, the better. So please keep that in mind. And again, Maggie and myself will be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions ongoing, please go ahead and paste them there. And we might do kind of a, parking lot situation where it's like, yeah, we'll cover that in a second. Or like, we'll get to that later. I might hang on at the end and get to things that are outstanding. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this is useful and helpful for y'all. Really quick, this is probably, these control bars might be at the top of your screen now that I'm doing the slide share, but the basic participant controls are the mute button, start stop video, see the participants list, and that's where you can rename yourself, the chat window, share screen, clap or thumbs up is that reactions setting right there, and leave meeting, just like that. So you should be able to see those. So for those folks who are just orienting yourself to Zoom, that's where you get all those things. And moving right along, my name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. My last name is Wertz. It's spelled differently than it's pronounced, kind of. I'm based in Austin, Texas, and my background's in nonprofits and education. And I do consulting and coaching and facilitating. And right now I do a lot of Zoom trainings. And I've been doing that since about mid-March. I have helped by my count, and y'all are 50 more people. Some of you have been to my other Zoom trainings, but definitely at this point, over 500 people figure out Zoom and how to use Zoom more effectively. My background's in technology education. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, we're going to be on Zoom a lot. So I bought a paid Zoom account. The account we're using today is the Pro account in Zoom. So it's the $15 a month or $150 a year. It's not an enterprise account or attached to like a larger organization. There's only one host user of the account. I don't have any other accounts attached to it. Yeah, and I've been helping folks get their virtual lives in order now that a lot of our lives are done virtually. My company is Wildly Supportive, and our mission is to cultivate a wildly supportive community. So yeah, that is what I do. Ashley asked, is there a nonprofit rate? And I would say to that, this is free. So this is my nonprofit rate. I'm doing a lot of this stuff on a sliding scale. If you're doing, oh, for Zoom, that's a great question. Nonprofit rate. There's not, as far as I know, nonprofit rate for Zoom. It's just $15 a month or $150 a year for the paid account. There are education accounts that are available for districts, and I don't know all the settings for that because I'm not a school district, but some other people might know that. Yeah, so there is kind of an education discount. Otherwise, I think the $15 a month is pretty good, and we'll talk about some of the limitations for that account. Like, it lets me have up to 100 people in a session at a time, and my meeting could be up to 24 hours long, although I promise we'll end this before 24 hours straight. Yeah, and I think, I do think the education account is technically for districts, but if you put in a request, I do believe like you can be like, hey, I'm not a school district, I'm an educator at, a museum or something, and they might be able to hook you up with that. So definitely reach out to them and recognize that they're probably getting a lot of requests. So I don't know how responsive they'll be. Yeah, so moving along to Zoom resources. This slide deck, I'll send this out in email to everybody who registered for the session today, but this slide deck, my kind of intro Zoom session is all about the settings in Zoom. So I'll reference that a bunch, and some of your questions you might be like, can you tell me more about this? And I'll be like, that's covered in the first training. And the settings slideshow is really useful and kind of boring. And it's like a screen capture of all of the settings in Zoom and then my notes about the way I have mine set up and why you might want to do that. And So that exists, this exists, all of those are at wildlysupportive.com/Zoom. There's a breakout room video, which is made by a couple of friends and collaborators of mine. It's about 20 minutes long, and it shows you the actual back end of managing breakout rooms. So even with screen sharing, I can't show you all the host controls, unfortunately, on this call. So even though we'll be going in breakout rooms and I'll be talking about them and showing you some screen captures of those settings, we won't actually go into, you won't see exactly all my controls, but that 20-minute video that I've linked there, I do recommend if you are hosting sessions on breakout rooms. And then I have a document of featured links and recommendations and a bunch of other stuff. I update them regularly. And just credit, a lot of the icons from this slideshow are from this Black Illustrations project. And they are icons of people of color using technology. And there's also medical settings ones that are available for free or by donation. So the link is there and will be shared in the slide deck. So encourage you to use it and check it out. Yeah. So the things that I'm planning to cover today, and it will go, the hour and a half will go by relatively quickly, are co-hosting, spotlighting videos, polls, registration, whiteboard and annotation in Zoom, sharing sound, breakout rooms, which will actually get into breakout rooms and play in that space a little bit, and then closed captioning. And if you have other requests or questions, now would be a great time to write those in the chat and we can hopefully cover them. And Katie's asking, after this meeting, will I still be able to access the Zoom resources from the link? Yes, all of that stuff, wildlysupportive.com/Zoom is there, share it widely. There's a bunch of, yeah, just go there, that has all the things, and I'll send that out in email too to everyone. So that'll all be there. Yeah, you probably can't copy them from this version because this is just a screen share. But we'll share the link to the actual slide deck in a second here too. So if there's any other features that y'all have questions about, now would be a great time to put those in the chat as we move on to our first actual topic. Yeah, Katie, the Google Docs will be shared. Totally, they're linked. Yeah. So co-hosts, I'm gonna shout out our fabulous co-host Maggie Buford, also calling in from Austin, Texas. So Maggie and I have done a bunch of sessions before. We've connected, and I asked her if she would co-host the session today, and she said yes, which is amazing. So I think, especially on a big call like this, where there's like 70 people registered and about 50 people on the call, definitely have a co-host. I would say anytime you're doing a public session, it's good to have a co-host. So think about that and try to, train up some of your friends and colleagues to get that capacity going. It's really hard to present and manage, like checking the chat. And, if you have to mute somebody's, in the background or spotlight a video or things like that. So it's very useful to have a handful of folks on the call who can help with those types of things. Co-hosting is a feature you need to turn on in your Zoom settings. So when you have your Zoom account, you log in, you go to zoom.us, you log in, go to settings, and you have to make sure that co-hosting is turned on. Otherwise, you won't be able to designate a co-host. And so that sets it that co-hosting is turned on to all of your sessions, but sometimes I don't use them. Like if I'm just taking a call with my friends, I might not have a co-host. Or if I'm just like video chatting with my brother to see his 3-year-old, like I might not have a co-host for that. Although making the 3-year-old is a compelling co-host option. But definitely a feature you want to turn on. The co-hosts have a lot of the same permissions as the host, but not all of the permissions. They can let folks in from the waiting room. So like right now, my settings on Zoom are that every time someone comes into the waiting room, Maggie and I hear a little ding dong sound, and it can be a little bit distracting, but because I checked in with Maggie, she's like, I got it. She'll let people in from the waiting room. I don't have to be like, who is that? Let him in. And the ding dong is also in the settings. So if you go to that Zoom settings slide deck, which I'll share, again, it's at wildlysupportive.com/Zoom, it'll show you the setting for where to turn that on. I have it turned on so that only the host and co-host can hear it. And you can turn it off so that nobody hears it, but then I don't want to be like, oh no, Heather's been in the waiting room for 17 minutes, you know. So I have it turned on because it's good to hear like somebody knows that it's happening, but you can turn it off entirely. And then they can spotlight videos, they can mute and stop video for other folks, they can ask people to turn on their videos or come off mute. They can move from, oh, that's a typo, move from breakout room to breakout room if you set them in a breakout room, and do more things. Co-hosts cannot vote in polls. So if I made everybody a co-host on this call and I did demos for polls, nobody could vote in them. I don't really know why that is, but it's how it works. They can't start breakout rooms and they can't end the meeting for everyone. And you can designate, like I could say like, oh, right now I'm gonna make Maggie the host. So I'm gonna designate her the host. Since I'm the host, I can make anybody a co-host and I can make any one person a host. As soon as I passed host duties off though, I just become a normal participant. So then I don't have any of those controls. So if for some reason on this call, there was and I'll talk about some of the reasons why that might be. If I was like, oh, I'm gonna pass the hosting duties off to Maggie so that she can set up our breakout rooms while I present, I would do that. And then I would ask her kindly to probably make me at least a co-host. And then maybe at the end, make me the host again. So that's something you can do. And then there's the link again for more on co-hosting there below. So that is broadly co-hosting. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. Yeah, I see that Chris is mentioning, yeah, like the co-hosts or chat wranglers, that's a big part of the job. I think they're backup security in case anything happens, you need to put anybody in a waiting room again. Yeah, it's very nice to have at least a person to be backing you up on your calls. If someone is a co-host named in advance, do they go in the waiting room? Yep. There's no, you can't designate a co-host in advance except for like calling your friend Maggie and being like, hey, will you be my co-host tomorrow? So I'll let you in from the waiting room. Or like, can you log in 5 minutes early? And so we can test the sound and the screen sharing or whatever. And then when I let Maggie in, I set Maggie to have co-hosting permissions. So because the account that I'm using, and probably a lot of the accounts that y'all have are like this, they're not linked to any other accounts. I can't do the things where I like know ahead of time and designate like this person's a co-host or these are the breakout rooms you're going to go to. If we all worked for the same organization, like if we all worked for IBM and we were all on the IBM enterprise account, you might be able to do that, but that's not the case here. I saw the best question award goes to what about showing things on Zoom like a live snake? So we'll have to definitely put that in the parking lot, but I think I have some ideas about that, and I'm not in quarantine with a live snake, unfortunately, so I can't demo it. But if anybody else has a snake, you get that ready for the end of the session. Oh, Maggie's gonna cover the snake question. You're gonna get a snake. Okay, good, great. Thank you very much. So yeah, move on. If you have other questions, feel free to paste them in there. One of the things that honestly could help with the snake issue is spotlight video. Perfect segue. A host or co-host can spotlight a video. So effectively this sets the primary active speaker as one person. So in a minute, I'm going to stop screen sharing of this slideshow and then we'll jump back on it. And then we're going to play around with Spotlight really quick. So if y'all have noticed, if you've been on Zoom a bunch since March, you might have noticed that the default for Zoom is either gallery view where it's all a bunch of little thumbnails of everybody. And when somebody talks or their audio is going off, so maybe a dog is barking loudly in the background, a little yellowish greenish highlight will go around that box and that will designate like that person's the active speaker. So that's in gallery view. You'll still see all the little pictures, the little thumbnail pictures. In speaker view, it'll jump from whoever's talking or whoever's background audio is going off will be a big image, and then the little images will be around that. So spotlight video is a way to essentially use that speaker view, but set it to one person and just say like, nah, this person is the person to pay attention to regardless of if their audio is going off. So a time you might want to use that are like keynotes, addresses, when you want folks to focus on one speaker or video, maybe, you know, like I'm doing a lot of classes and like a lot of workshops. So if a teacher is like holding something up, I'm doing a lot of like art classes too. And so like the teacher I'm working with is teaching like embroidery, and it's kind of tiny. And so she might be like showing stitches like really up close like that. And you'd make her the spotlight video. So even if other people are talking or asking questions, that you're seeing the big video. So I will show you that again here in a second. Let me stop my share. So because Maggie and I are host and co-host of this call, either of us can spotlight a video. So I'm going to spotlight Maggie really quick. So I go to her screen, and up by everybody's name, there's a little, like when I hover over your screen, there's a little blue, it says I can ask to unmute or ... And then I have the option to, if I click on ... to spotlight the video. And then Maggie's video is spotlighted, even though her sound's on mute.
It also asked me to unmute.
Yes. Oh, it did. Oh, interesting. I didn't do that, but yeah, that's cool. It's automatic. So it asked her to unmute. So even if she was just demoing something, you know, and she wasn't gonna go off mute, like you would still, she'd be the focus. Now I can cancel the spotlight video. So now it's canceled, but you probably still see her as speaker, and then it'll jump to whoever else. And you can go back to that gallery view. For me on my computer, it's in the upper right. There's like a box of 9 little grids, and that goes to gallery view. So Kara's asking, if you're in a large Zoom room and someone's dog is barking, is there a quick way to find them so you can mute them, or do you just have to swipe through the gallery to look at the green box? So that's a great question. Most of the time, the people that, for myself and Maggie, in our participants list, if someone goes off mute, their name will pop up above. It kind of hierarchies people, like it defaults to be alphabetized by first name. Right now, my list is Emily, then Maggie, because it's host and co-host. And then it's everybody alphabetically, because it seems like everybody on this call is on mute, which is lovely. But if one of you jumps off mute, your name would jump up above Allison's, who's the alphabetically first name in this list. So, and you can also see, like you all probably see that my microphone is pulsing in the participants window. So I can sometimes, yeah, like I'll be like, whose background noise is loud? Where's that lawnmower coming from? And I'll kind of scroll and see if there's a few people off mute, it'll be there. So it should prioritize those folks. Yeah, is that helpful, Kara? Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Maggie said that, yeah, everybody will jump. What if everyone is off mute? What if all the like 50 people are off mute? That's a great question. Then it would just, most of them would be quietish, and the person whose dog is barking in the background the microphone would be green pulsing, and maybe if it was loud enough, the speaker box would move to there. I will say that one of the settings, and again, you can find this in the Zoom settings, and you can see it actually when you just go to schedule a meeting, one of the settings is that everybody who joins the meeting is automatically on mute, and that's what this session was, and that's what I definitely recommend setting up your accounts in, so that the default is like, hi, welcome, thanks for joining, y'all are on mute. We're gonna probably stay on mute for some of it, but when we have, you know, ask a snake keeper, you can come off mute, you know. So just for those public sessions, like my recommendation is that you definitely set it so that folks are on mute to default, so that they get used to that, so that, you know, and like right now when everybody's on mute, it really sounds like I'm talking to myself. So I've been in sessions where people, the host will like be like, hey, can I get like 3 people to come off mute so I can hear some background, or not like loud background noise, but it doesn't feel like I'm like talking in my shower. But you know, it is what it is. The gallery view does not put people in the same order. So if I say like, oh, my buddy Heather is 2 below me, like that is true right now, but it's not for me, but it randomizes it for other people. That is not true for Maggie. So yeah, that's a good question. So like if you've seen like people are doing that thing where like they'll all like hold up something and it'll all match or like be like a puzzle, that's like a lot of work, and people like you have to just dictate like, oh no, move it to the right side, oh okay, you know. So that's like totally arbitrary. Yeah. When it's recorded, it's prioritizing the speaker to be the person who's recording. And you'll see some of that, like, and it does different things. The recording will look different than the session in an interesting way. Like when I record and I share screen, it'll have just my little image talking next to the shared screen thing. That's worth playing around with, and I don't record a lot of my sessions, so I don't know fully all of the different ways it looks, but I do know that like it's a little bit different than just the default like we're seeing it right now. Any other questions about Spotlight Video? Go ahead and paste them in the chat. One note is that you can pin a video. So let's imagine my friend Anna had an awesome snake in the background and she was playing with her awesome snake, and you love snakes and you're like, I'm gonna see, yeah, there it is, Anna's got her invisible snake, and you're like, I want to see that through this call, and I don't care if Emily's talking or Maggie's sharing a screen or whatever. Y'all could pin Anna's video and I wouldn't know that, and then you would just be watching Anna and she wouldn't know that. But pinning a video is only for you, so it doesn't set everybody's screen or anything. So it's only like if you just want to gaze lovingly at one person, or if they have a really cute dog or something, you can pin that video. But Spotlight Video is more of like an actual like facilitation tool where it's like, y'all need to be paying attention to this person. So that's the difference between those two features. Awesome. Yeah, Katie mentioned that she does some recording and they give you an option to download the different views, Spotlight and Gallery. So that's cool. That's good to know. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to jump back into the slideshow. Here we go. And we'll move on to polls. So there's fairly limited feature in Zoom for polling. This is definitely one of the things that's like residual from the world of we were only using Zoom in professional meetings, and maybe you'd have a poll that was like, where do you all want to order lunch from today? Or, you know, what should be the, you know, who should lead this next part of the project? So it's not, I come from like an education and nonprofit background, so I'm like, ooh, polls, we could do all these interesting things and evaluation and stuff, but like you can't really. It lets you have, this is the screen capture of it, and I'll jump in and I'll actually launch a poll in a second and I'll show you setting up a poll. It lets you have up to 10 options, so you can have one question and it can be either single choice, like what is your favorite something, and you pick one, or, you know, which of the following things do you like, and you pick multiple. That's the only question format it has. It doesn't have like Likert scale, like on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you like grilled cheese sandwiches? It does not let you do that unless you did. If that was your single question and you said, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you like grilled cheese sandwiches? And then you made your answer choices 1, not at all, 2, not very much, 3, somewhat. You could make that an individual question, right? So that's pretty limiting, and you could launch a bunch of those different polls, but like my recommendation is if you really want to do actual evaluation, use a separate tool. If you want some quick engagement things, and if you want quick like, hey, where's everybody calling from, or what type of organization do you work for, or things like that, you could use the poll feature. You can set up polls in advance or during a meeting. I think only the host can write the polls during the meeting, so that's kind of limiting too. That's another reason why you might like have the presenter not be the host and just be a co-host, and then have the host actually set up in the background like, oh, I'm gonna make a poll really quick about this. And one session I went to that was really great, they used polls to prioritize. Like if I had said like, I could have set up a poll that was like, here's the features we're going to talk about. Which of these do you most like? What's your top priority? And then you could have ranked, and it would probably be breakout rooms. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to start with breakout rooms. But I didn't do that because I didn't make it that participatory. But this other group did, and it was great. And they switched around and jumped to the order of their presentation based on the feedback from the poll, if that makes sense. So I recommend, if you have some other access to something else, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, Kahoot, something, if you're going to do something more advanced, but you can use the Zoom poll. And again, I'm going to stop the share right now, and I'm going to launch the poll that I started before. So y'all should see a poll and go ahead and vote on it when you see it. Kat asks, can you make answering anonymous at least for the participants? And you can. I'll show you that in a second, but there's that little checkbox under add a poll that makes it anonymous, but you don't even, honestly, like, it's hard to find out what people actually voted for. Like there is a record of it somewhere, but like I have to go and like dig for it. So it's not going to tell you like, you know, Melissa said this was her first Zoom call ever. It's not. So what I see right now, y'all can still vote. If you haven't voted, it says that 83% of people have voted now. I can see that 42 out of 49 people have voted, that the poll has been up for 53 seconds. So there's like a little timer. So if I was like, oh, we're going to put this poll up for 2 minutes, I'm not going to leave it up that long because most of y'all have voted, which is fine. And then at the end of the poll, whenever I decide, like momentarily, I will end the poll, and then I decide to push end poll, and then y'all won't see it. So like that could be like if we were like doing some kind of voting and I didn't want you to see where we're ordering lunch from or whatever the poll was about, I could just take that information and tell my secretary, I don't have a secretary, but I could go order lunch from Taco Deli, and then we'd get Taco Deli and magically appear, and it would be amazing. But I can also share the results afterwards too. So I'm going to end the poll now because most everybody's voted. And then there's a button that I can see that says share results. So here we go, share results. A majority of folks on this call sometimes host Zoom sessions. No one said this was their first Zoom meeting. No one said they don't even know how they got here. So that's totally good. I'm glad you know how you got here, at least. At least there's that. And so now y'all are seeing the poll results. And this is not even a shared screen feature. This is like in the polls. So even though it's a pop-out window for me, it's probably like kind of a pop-out window for you. That's just how it looks. I can't share the screen, unfortunately. Zoom, even though you set it to, so Rosalie's asking, can I share the screen so I can see what you're seeing? That would be great. And even though I have my Zoom settings to, yes, show Zoom controls when I share my screen, it doesn't mean you can see the host view. So the easiest way to do this is to go to that link that's in the slide deck, and they'll have screen grabs of all of the things that are polls. The second thing that I would totally recommend is if you are doing a public presentation where you're gonna use features like breakout rooms and polls and things like that, is get some friends, and maybe you're making some new friends today who can be your Zoom test buddies, and you do a quick run through where like I would just like get Maggie and Heather and Melissa and be like, hey, okay, can you see that poll? Good, cool, we'll just put the poll up when we have our audience, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna put us in breakout rooms, even though you're just gonna sit there for yourself for 30 seconds. All right, come back, that worked, and just like actually do a test run through, you know, in a lot of the ways you would if you were doing a presentation in public, in person, but really to nail down and walk through all of the tech stuff. So I'm gonna stop sharing the poll right now. And I can relaunch the poll later on. I can edit the poll from this little window. And the other thing I can do is, let me go to this actual meeting space. So I'm going to share the screen of Zoom, actually. So this is, if I go to zoom.us and log in. So this is, right, Zoom.us might look familiar to you if you've made meetings before. I went to meetings, I clicked on this meeting that we're in right now, Explore Zoom's advanced features. Here's all the info about it. And down at the bottom here is that info about polls. So if I click, these are tabs, even though they don't look like tabs, it's not great UI, but that's, so there's polls. And so this is the poll I made in advance. So I can edit that. Didn't like that. Oh, the poll is ended. It's mad at me. The poll is ended. I can add a poll. So I can add a poll from here, or I can add it from the meeting, and it opens up the same, it looks the exact same. So if I want to make a new poll, this is my poll I can type really quickly. You can make it anonymous. Again, I don't, that poll we just did was not anonymous, but I think I'd have to dig into the file that's created at the end of this meeting to actually see who voted for what, because it doesn't show me. It looked just the same that you saw, that like 43% or whatever said like they're somewhat familiar with Zoom, or you know, they host Zoom meetings sometimes. So on here, you can type your question. You can make it a single choice or multiple choice. Since I said favorite, I'm gonna make it single choice. You get the picture. So you could put those, you can only do 10 things. That's really all you can do. I can save it, and then that will be a poll that I could launch again. So that's the simple and kind of limited feature of Zoom polls. Any questions about that? Cool. Awesome.
Emily, someone asked if the polls were only in Pro version. I didn't want to be wrong, but I believe it's for any version.
Let me double check. That's a great question. When you go to those links that I share, they usually tell you what the, like, they're like, here's what you need. And like for breakout rooms, you need like 3 people on the thing. Prerequisites. Okay, it says the host user type must be licensed. So that means that you do need to have, somebody needs, the host needs to have a paid account. Yeah, so, and that's a weird thing, because you could have someone logged in that has a paid account and make them the host, and then they would have polls, even if you were doing it from your free account. The free account times out after 40 minutes if you have more than 2 people on the call. So if you're having short meetings that are, or small meetings that are only 2 people, if I just wanted to call my brother, we could talk on a free account for, I don't know, probably 24 hours. But as soon as I want to like add my mom in, it'll time us out after 40 minutes. So the free version is really limited for hosting stuff. Yeah, Kaylee's asking, how do I launch the poll? I see a button at the bottom of my screen where it's like mute, stop video, all that good stuff. One of them is polling, and I can click on that, and then I can launch the polls from there. When you're ready to launch prepared ahead of time polls, you go to that page you were just on. You could, or you can do it from the host controls at the bottom. Like it's really just like the same, it's the same type of button as chat, stop video, participants. It's just polls is one of the options that the host sees. That's a great question. Yeah. Pretty simple. I will talk about the branding tab, Katie. Yeah. How is the invite button used in the participant window? I don't see, where do you see the invite button, Mark? I don't see it in the participant info, but I do see it at the bottom.
Yeah, so in the, there's a navigation link at the bottom that says participants. I click on that, I get a window, it says 49 participants, and then at the bottom there it says invite.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, oh yeah, I see it. I see it, yes, okay. That will open up, it'll copy the invite link to this meeting. And so like if you were like, Kiki, get on this awesome meeting, you would copy that invite link and like email it to Kiki. And so for this meeting, it was a registration meeting. So I'm pretty sure the invite is just like, y'all go to register. So Kiki wouldn't be able to immediately get that link. Like even if we wanted her to join really quickly, which we do, she's great. But in a meeting that doesn't have registration, it would just be like the link to join. And it'd be like, jump on this call. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Ashley's, can you host breakout sessions in the free version? No, you cannot. Yeah. A lot of these things are paid versions. Yeah, registration. We'll talk about registration in a second, Katie. I would say if you're on a tight budget, think about the ways that you can make up $15 a month or $150 a year doing paid Zoom sessions, because I do think like it's likely that you can, or you know, like there's a lot of people now with paid Zoom accounts. Like I'm sharing mine in limited capacity because like I'm not always using Zoom, only most of the time. So like, you know, if you were like, hey, we have once a month meeting where we need to use Zoom, can you find somebody who's like, yeah, sure. Like here's our account credentials or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, and people probably have, it sounds like Aubrey's already saying, like, I do trivia prizes during my workshops, and it's been a struggle to find out who buzz, or, oh, what's the best way to do that? Perfect. So there's like lots of ideas for how to make, you know, monetize, get back some of that money. And if folks have ideas or things that have been successful so far, you might paste those in the chat. But like largely in my world, it's workshops and things like that. Yeah, that's a great question about the buzzing. I'll think about that some. If anybody else has ideas, that would be great. Cool. All right, we're going to jump back into the slide deck and talk about registration. Let me share my screen again. All right. Registration. So if you all signed up for this meeting, you almost certainly registered by going to a registration page where you had to enter your name and your email address. That is a feature that you can set up for your Zoom meetings, and there's a bunch of different features and things you can adjust. That was like one of the most simple ways to do it, is just with like name and email address. So again, it's kind of in that same area where the polls are in the tabs, and I'll open up this meeting and show you that, but largely you go and you see the registration tab. You have to set the meeting so that registration is required. And you can't do it like registration is required for some and not for others. It's like an all or nothing thing. Either you have registration or you don't through Zoom, right? You could also, like some of my meetings I have through Eventbrite because I sell tickets. And so for those, I usually don't have Zoom registration. I just have Eventbrite registration, and then I pull down your emails from Eventbrite, and then I email you the Zoom invite from Eventbrite. So that's like kind of a separate thing. This is more for registration where I want a list of participants, names and emails, and I don't care if they paid, and I just want you to register to sign up for it. So I go to registration, and then if you want to click on edit, that's where you can choose if you automatically approve. For this session, it was just automatically approved. Like, yeah, that's cool. Some sessions you might be like, oh, this is a smaller group and I want to know like what organization you're from, or how did you hear about it, or what are, you know, and then you can select manually approve. And manually approve means that I have it set up so that it emails me every time somebody registers, and then I have to check and be like, oh, is it okay if Heather comes to this meeting? Yes, it is. And I'd approve Heather's registration, and then once I approve it is when she would get the email with the link. So I set it to, if I do that, manually approve, and then send an email to the host when someone registers. In this case, there were like 70 people registered, so I would have gotten 70 emails. So that's something to think about. I just had this one be automatically. Other options, close registration after event date. I don't know why that's not automatically selected. I guess people can register after the fact, and like for this thing, it doesn't really matter. Then I would just have like more email addresses, and if you registered after, I'd be like able to send you the links or the documents. But you might want to do that if you're like, this is an important event and like it is over. You missed meeting the snake at our zoo. Allow attendees to join from multiple devices. I do. Y'all have one invite link, but like if for some reason you were like, well, I'm going to use the camera on my iPad, but the audio on my phone, you could do that. If I didn't select that, then you couldn't. You could only join from one device. And show social share buttons on registration page. So like if somebody is like, hi, I heard about this workshop, which might have happened with this because I didn't paste to that many people and we had 70 people sign up. So if y'all are sharing it, thanks. But that's what that means right there. So again, I'm going to stop sharing this and I'll go into the actual real world of registration. and share this meeting thing in Zoom. So here we go. This is what that looks like. So again, this is the same meeting that we're in right now. I did have it when I made the meeting. So that's like if I go to schedule a new meeting, I'll show you that really quick, if my internet can be quick. So like pretend this is like a new meeting I'm scheduling. The place where you need to select registration is right here. Registration is required. This is again, like I can choose what day and time it is, what my meeting's called, all that good stuff. This is where I can say like, I want the host video to be on when it starts or the participant video to be on or off. I had it so that the host video was off and then I just joined and turned on, and then I had y'all's videos on because I wanted to see more faces and have a little bit more engagement. This is where you can select, these are my default settings, but you can change some of them from an individual meeting. So this is where I can say like, I want to mute everybody so that there isn't a ton of background noise when 70 people potentially join this meeting. And if I save this session, then it will save it and it will save with registration, just like the meeting we're currently in has. So let's pretend we did that and we got this awesome thing. And here's the registration. Look, more people are registering. And this registration has, I can edit. That's what that little button is. And then from that edit, those are the things I just talked about. I can also choose different questions. These are like the default ones that it offers. So I can say like, oh, I want to collect your zip code, and I can make it required or not. Doesn't matter. And since this is already going, I'm just going to cancel that. And then I can also add custom questions. Like if I wanted to say like, what organization do you work for? How did you hear about this? Whatever that looks like. And you can make it required or not. And you can make it a short answer or a single answer where you could like make it multiple choice. Like if you only were, you know, offering it to a few different types of places. So that is simply the like, or the registration features. Again, I'm going to cancel it. This is the branding tab. So registration, email settings, branding, poll. We already saw poll, we already saw registration. Email settings is like who it emails when. But branding, I added my banner and my logo, and you just add a little image there. They can't be very big. So I just have these saved on my desktop and add them so that then when you go to the registration link, my banner shows up here and my logo shows up here. And there's Maggie's email address. Sorry, Maggie, putting you on blast because of cookies. You just won't see Maggie's email unless you had recently entered Maggie's email. But that's what the meeting looks like if you brand it. If you don't, it doesn't have, there's just like nothing here and no logo here. So, and you have to do that for every meeting, which is kind of a drag, like if you want consistent branding. If you copy a meeting as a template, like if you had a workshop once a week, you can copy it as a template and then it will save the branding there. So that's like a quick recommendation. You could do that. And that's save meeting as a template is right here. And you can have up to 40 templates in your paid account. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna go back to chat because I feel like we have a lot of questions now. Maggie, you wanna, do you have any highlights? You wanna come off mute?
Well, the first, we've got, Katie has a few questions.
Cool.
Advantage of registering people in Zoom.
Yeah, I think the advantage is that now I have everybody's email address. So I have all 48 people who are here and all 30 whatever people who didn't show up. And I can email them and be like, hey, thanks you for registering for this Zoom thing. Here's the links from today's session, right? Also, if I wanted to like add you to my newsletter or whatever, I'm not gonna do that, but like, you know, like you have some amount of, you know, who came, and then you can also ask questions ahead of time, like what feature do you most want to know about in Zoom, or why are you joining this meeting, or what, you know, like what's your favorite animal, and maybe we go visit that animal at the zoo, or whatever, you know, whatever type of session that is, you can like ask them those questions. So otherwise it would just be like, show up on this link and anybody who gets that link would join.
That's a good segue to this other question about editing custom emails to the registrants. So you can add like a website. Is that possible?
Yeah, let me double check that. So you can edit your preview email. Oh God. Yes, you can edit that. So let me pull up this screen share. I might have just emailed you all another invite link, so sorry about that. You just delete it. When you go to email, you can edit it right here. So you can say like this said, like whatever this is, Explorer Zoom's advanced features confirmation. Hi, whatever name you put in that field. Thank you for registering. And then here I could put, you know, please make sure to wear a silly hat. Bring a paper and pen, whatever I wanted. Mostly I just want people to wear silly hats. So you can customize it some and it's just gonna send you that info too. So that's the email settings and it's this edit one. And if you wanted to change the email contact, if you were like, don't email me, email Maggie, you could change the email address there. So great question for that. Another question. What else we got, Maggie?
We've got something else buried in here. Pro accounts, can you set an alternative host before setting up the meeting?
Only if you have a another account linked to your account. So again, like I don't have any accounts linked, and like even though like Maggie has a pro account and I have a pro account, if we link them, like it's kind of a big commitment. It's a big step in our relationship. Like we're close, but I don't know if we're close enough to do that because like it does make it weird for like scheduling things and monitoring stuff and their needs. So like I think that's only kind of useful if you're all like if the Phoenix Zoo has, you know, a dozen staff members and they want all their staff members to have accounts and it's just cheaper to buy the individual pro accounts and then link them than get an enterprise account because the enterprise accounts are for like IBM, like a big company, that might make sense. But if it's just like hey, on this call I got some buddies that I trust that know Zoom pretty well and like I could make Maggie the co-host or I can make Heather the co-host or I can make Anna the co-host or Melissa, like I think the easiest thing to do is just figure that out on your own ahead of time. Yeah, so you can link the pro accounts. I haven't done that and I kind of don't recommend that unless you're like you're only using these accounts for like a work performance stuff. I don't know if anybody else has advice or questions about that.
Yeah,
Kaylee's asked, yeah.
I was gonna say I did that. We have a enterprise account here and I named alternative host in a meeting because I was like, oh, if something goes wrong, they can be, well, what I didn't realize is it makes them an alternative host for every meeting I have after that. So I took it off. So I'm with you. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, cool. That's good to know, Melissa. Yeah. So like that's an enterprise account for a university. So like you might want to link that for sometimes, but I think it's way easier to just like, honestly, like what I would do sooner than do the actual linking thing is like email Maggie my Zoom password. And just be like, here's my Zoom password if something goes wrong, you know, or like share it with a couple people so that they could launch the meeting. But yeah, that's a good question. Before the meeting, how do you access the list of all the email registered? Yeah, it's just it's in the email registration thing where it says registrant 70 and I can press view. I'm not going to share it with you because you'll see everybody's email address, but it just pulls up a list of everybody's email. And like I resent the confirmation email to everybody who registered. Like if you registered this morning, I didn't resend it to you, but if you registered last night or before that, I resent it to you and you can just click a button and do that. So it's pretty handy. So definitely explore that. Q&A is not the same as chat. Q&A is a feature for webinars. So like, because this is a meeting, we have chat, but if you paid extra and had a webinar open, so if I needed more people on this, or if I didn't want to see all your lovely faces, we could do it as a webinar, and Q&A is like a limited chat feature. Any advice to get people to actually show up? No. That's like something I'm laughing because something I'm still unlocking. Like I'll offer a training like this and like 6 people will register and it'll be like me and 2 people and I'll be like, hey friends, and then I'll do one like this and 70 people register. So I don't really have that figured out yet. I think a lot of that is like however it gets picked up by social media shares and things like that. Yeah, it's definitely frustrating for teacher workshops. I think right now we've all, like, even before the pandemic, it was like that, like, oh, 1,000 people are saying they're coming to our event, and then like 6 people show up, and now it's like even worse. So I'd love to hear other people's experience with that. Yeah, about a quarter of people showing up for a free event. There's a higher rate if it's paid. I think that's definitely true. The webinar is not included, but you can add it. And so it's like, it's listed as a monthly feature, like, but you can buy it for a month and then like cancel the subscription. So I've done that before. I've definitely been like, sure, we're going to do webinars this month and we're not going to do it again. So I'm just going to pay for that extra batch this month. That's pretty easy to do. All right, we have half an hour left to get through our next things. Let's jump to, some of these are quick. We're going to play with whiteboards real fast. So I'm going to share this screen about whiteboards, and then I'll actually share a whiteboard. So whiteboards and annotation. Again, this is something, most of these features are things you have to turn on in your Zoom settings on your account, or otherwise you don't have access to them. So make sure you turn them on. And then I'm going to share a whiteboard in a second, and then we're going to annotate it. And you have to talk your registrants, your participants usually through how to turn on the annotation tools. I'll tell you right now, and I'll tell you it again when we actually are playing with it. At the top of your screen, probably if you're on a computer, when I share, there's going to be a little view options, and you're going to go down to annotate. So you have to click view options and then annotate, and then you'll see these little tools. Whiteboards are definitely a place where I don't get any approval as host to see what you're about to draw or write. So you could share something naughty. You could draw something naughty if you're good at drawing. You could write something naughty. So these are just more like, a lot of folks that are in my network are educators. So if you're worried about that type of thing, then that could happen. Hopefully y'all are not here to write naughty or worse things than naughty things. But we'll share a whiteboard. I can erase anybody's thing, but it doesn't show me like, Heather's drawing a big purple eggplant. Is that okay? First, just Heather would just start drawing a big purple eggplant, and if I was like quick with my trigger finger on the erase button, I could be like, get that out of there. Heather's not going to do that. She never would. But same thing, and it has a text tool, so you can just start typing things, and you could be like, Emily is a big fat jerk. And I'd be like, well, that may be true, but I can erase that. But again, I don't get like the approval that somebody started typing that. As the host, I can erase anybody's thing. As a participant, you can only erase the things that you drew or wrote, which is also kind of handy, because if you have a lot of students that are like drawing things, and even if they're like, oh, I tried to erase it, but I accidentally erased what Melissa drew, you can't do that. I can't tell what everybody drew either. So that's another, like, it doesn't tell me like that purple eggplant is Heather's purple eggplant. So I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know. If this is just a drawing of a lot of eggplants, that's fine. It's a healthy food. So when I go to click share, it tells me I can share my desktop, my other desktop, because I have 2 monitors, or a whiteboard, and then other things that I have open, because I have a messy desktop life. So I'm going to share my whiteboard right now. And again, as the host, the annotation tools are just there, but you have to go to view options and annotate, and then you open up the thing. So seems like some people are figuring it out. Rosalie at least, yay. All of my whiteboards are set to save. That they're mostly messy like this and not that interesting, but here we go. I can stop the share at any point. That would probably be the fastest way to like dump it if people are being naughty. Anybody having a hard time finding the annotation tools? So again, it's view options. It's probably at the top of your screen, and then annotate. Is it working for you, Katie or Judith? It might be in like the ... Cool, Katie's got it. Yep, Judith got it. Yeah, so there we go. We're annotating. Yeah, if you're using a smartphone or tablet, it might be in a different place. My recommendation is definitely for the hosts that are like hosting and facilitating and presenting, if they can join with an actual computer, not a tablet, Chromebook, or phone. You can save this. I don't know if y'all can. Mine has the button that's save at the end of the annotation tools, and I set all of mine that all of my whiteboard save. So anytime I have a whiteboard, which is not that often, like this lovely file, I think pangolins are cool as well, will be saved. So it seems like y'all can save it too. So if you want this art for your life, you can save it. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. Sorry. Yeah, the other cool thing you can do that's just like whiteboards but different is you can always share a screen and encourage your participants to annotate with an image. So this is a map that I saved offline, and then I opened it in preview because I'm using a Mac, but you can just open it in whatever, and then I'm sharing that. And now y'all can open the annotate tools just like you did before. So view options, annotate, and if you want to like click in where you're joining from, yay, there's someone up in the Pacific Northwest. That's very cool. Some Californians, they can, you know, you can add, yeah, like those arrows, those stamps, whatever. Sorry, this is very North America centric. I figured probably this time zone, but there might be people from all over the world. So you could go ahead and put yourself somewhere else or write it. So this could be any map. Like sometimes I've done it with just Texas teachers, and I just had the map as like the different TEA districts and things like that. So that is a cool way to use basically the same feature, but instead of a blank whiteboard, you're using, you know, an image that you're drawing on. I'm going to stop the share so we can move forward boldly. Any other questions? How do you change color? That's in the annotation tools. There's like, it's format, which is frustrating. I'll show you that in a second. How did you get the heart? That's probably it's a stamp tool. Yeah. And you can limit who annotates. It's an advanced sharing option. Let me double check on that. I'll send that out in email. But mostly it's like kind of an all or nothing deal, or like hosts or co-hosts only, or no one. So I would say that's a time to like use it wisely with your trusted audiences or not. Yeah. Those little balloons to write in is that also in format when you like make an arrow and it has your name in it, or a shape tool? Let me pull up these. So let me show you really quick in my slideshow again. So these are the whiteboard, these are the annotation tools. So that changing the color is actually this format thing. So if you click on that, it'll like open up the selection of different colors. The stamps, the hearts, the checks, the stars are stamps like this. So yeah, there's some different tools. I would just say, again, like jump on a call with one other person and play with the tools so you familiarize yourself with it. I don't use whiteboards all that much. Look, now y'all are annotating on this, which you can do. Gonna have to, yeah. All right. Okay. So really quick, when you join this call, if you joined early on, you heard music and I wasn't sharing a screen, but music is a screen sharing feature. So this is a way to share sound where everybody hears the same sound over Zoom. So when I go to screen sharing, which I'm doing now to show you this slide, so I'll have to do it in a minute in a different way, and I go to, it opens in a basic, which is the one where it's like share a different window or share a different, like the whiteboard. But then if you click over to advanced, it has these three options: a portion of the screen, and I could just highlight like a portion of that map and that's all I could share, or a portion of my desktop. But the one I use is music or computer sound only. And so even if it's a screen share, it'll look back like the regular view, probably gallery view, and you'll be able to hear my music. And it will be sharing the whatever computer sound my computer is playing. So it could be a YouTube video. You'll hear the sound, the audio from that. I play my music off Spotify because I have a Spotify account. So that's what you'll hear. Or content from a second camera if you had a second camera connected. That would be another advanced feature. But because this one's for sound, you can also, if I was like sharing a window, like if I was sharing a window in my internet browser and I wanted to show you a YouTube video and I wanted you to hear the audio from it, just in the basic one, I would say like, okay, I'm gonna share this Google Chrome window and I'm gonna share computer sound so that y'all can hear that audio. So everybody, mark it in your calendar. July 23rd is the day you stop holding up your phone to your microphone and playing audio over Zoom. Don't do that. It sounds terrible. It's not good. Use this feature, advanced screen sharing. So I'll show you that by way of doing it. Again, I'm sorry you can't see my behind the scenes for it. So I'm going to click on screen share. I'm going to click on the advanced tab. I'm going to click on music or computer sound only. I just did that. And now I'm going to start playing a song in Spotify. So you don't hear any music right now because my computer's not making any audio sounds, but here we go. I'm going to invite Gladys Knight into the Zoom call. I will say that, like, in my experience, my audio in these headphones sounds pretty low and it sounds good for y'all, like a decent volume. So like that's definitely something, like when Maggie and I jumped on this call 10 minutes early, I was like, how's the audio level sound? She was like, good. I was like, great. That's an easy way to do it, you know. Definitely check on that because I don't want to blast y'all super loud. Another fun thing I have now, thanks to the amazing artist Linda Berry, is a bunch of us have been doing drawing activities together, and those are really timed. So we get on a Zoom call, we do sketches. It'll be like, draw yourself dancing with a pizza for 2 minutes. And to do timing for those things, I have 2-minute songs playlist, 3-minute songs playlist, 4-minute songs playlist, and 5-minute songs playlist. So a lot of my things, like if we were like, hey, let's take a 5-minute break, I would just like put up a 5-minute song. And when the song's done, then our break's over. So there's some compelling reasons to get your Spotify life in order or make some playlists in YouTube or Pandora or whatever features you're doing based on that. So just a little tip there. All right, I'm gonna check questions. What do we got? This makes videos you share work better too. I'm not sure what work better means, but the audio, like, be in sync. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah, sound better. Probably. It'll sound way better than if you're trying to pick it up with the mic sound. It'll be like more in sync. Video can be a little bit slow and choppy over Zoom, but yeah. Those playlists are just on my Spotify, so I'm the only Emily Wirtz pretty much, so if you look for, I think my Spotify account is Teaching Robots, which is the same as my Instagram, but yeah, like they're just out there. They're not is there a special way to share videos? The way to share videos really is just to go to like whatever, YouTube or whatever you're playing videos off of, and share your screen, but make sure you share that computer sound. If you really want the video quality to be high and not at all skippy, I mean, a lot of this is going to depend on people's internet connections. Like the video might look fine to me, and like someone who's joining on satellite internet might be like, oh, that really broke my, you know, like I couldn't see any of it. You could save a video file to your desktop. That'll be a little bit faster than having to stream it off the internet. But like, it's going to really depend. It's going to be like very variable based on other people's internet accounts. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably mostly people's internet. And then I would say like share it, download it if you can, and make sure you're doing the sharing sound file. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. I'm going to move right along because we're getting into breakout rooms, y'all. The time has come. So I'm going to go back to sharing my regular slideshow. We're going to talk about breakout rooms. We're going to go into breakout rooms for a few minutes, not very long. Again, breakout rooms is a feature that you have to turn on in Zoom. I have, again, at wildlysupportive.com/Zoom, there's a video that some collaborators of mine made early on, like back in March, of it's like 20 minutes behind the scenes. They have like 25 people on the call, and it shows you, like, it is a video of them managing breakout rooms. I highly recommend checking that out if you're planning on using breakout rooms. I will talk about breakout rooms, but again, I won't be able to show you exactly everything, and that will show you like all of the features. And they're just great, lovely people to watch for 20 minutes. So that is linked at wildlysupportive.com/Zoom. Only the host can assign participants to breakout rooms. So if this was a call where we really wanted people to like get in rooms based on your favorite type of snake, and it was very particular, I'm sorry if there's people who don't like snakes. As far as I know, there are no snakes invited to this call. But if that was what this call was about, and we really wanted it to be specific, and that meant that like Melissa needs to go to the boa constrictor room, and Mark needs to go to the viper room, or whatever that looks like, and it was taking like lots of little manipulation, that would be a time where your presenter who's talking about snakes should probably not be the host, and the co-host who's actually placing people into different rooms would be the host, so that they can do that while the other person is talking about the content. So I'm just going to assign you randomly into breakout rooms, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm not going to worry about like passing the torch for hosting off to Maggie so that she can set up breakout rooms, but that might be a thing you want to do, because unfortunately only the host and not the co-host can do that. Co-hosts can leave and join any breakout room, but they have to first go to the breakout room they were assigned to. So it's like, go to your room, now you can move around. I don't know why that is. There is a way to pre-assign breakout rooms, but it's very limited, and it only lets you do it with the people who are linked to accounts. Since I have 0 accounts linked, I have 0 people I could put into breakout rooms. It also means that when you start that meeting, everybody starts in breakout rooms. So that would really only be like if we all worked for the university and we had a meeting once a week where it was like, get into your small teams, and as soon as you enter the room, you're in your small teams. So I say just forget it. That's not a feature that's actually very practical for the ways we're using Zoom now. Just assume you can't pre-assign people to breakout rooms. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link there, and you will probably quickly learn like, oh yeah, that I can't do that, or it's like not how I want to run this at all. So I will say that like most of your breakout rooms, you're going to start in your session just like this. You can automatically or manually assign people to breakout rooms. For this one, we're just going to do it randomly. If I was doing it manually, like if we had a smaller group, like a dozen people, I might be able to keep track of like who wants to be in the ice cream room and who wants to be in the popsicle room, or whatever we decide we're talking about. And then I could sort you into that. Another thing you could have your participants do is change their name so that they have some indicator. Like if we were, science educators and we were talking about different types of animals, we were going to say like, hey, we're going to have a reptile group and a mammal group and a bird group. And you could say, if you want to be in the reptile group, change your name so that it's R at the beginning, R dash, and if you want to be in the mammal group, change it so it's M dash, and if you want to be in the bird group, change it so it's B dash, and your participants would have to change their name, and then you'd be able to sort them really easily. So if you had, 20 people on the call, you could sort them into those rooms easily, manually, and they'd be in those certain rooms. Zoom helps you with the math. So if you see this other one, it says like assign 7 participants into 3 rooms. That will be 2 to 3 participants per room. Like that's probably pretty easy math. But if you have 57 people on the call and you're like, oh, how many rooms is that? And it's like 5 rooms. As you adjust these things, it'll tell you an estimate for how many people are going to be in those rooms. So that's handy too when you're making those. And in the options menu for breakout rooms, which is this thing, there are the choice to move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. If this is unchecked, the participants have to check a join box to join a breakout room. You can allow everyone to return to the main session at any time, which is probably what I will do in this one. I might go jump into the breakout rooms and visit y'all. So you might, if you're like, oh, I got to get out of my room, you might just come to the empty space and nobody will be there, but that's fine. Or you can just be like, no, you have to stay in your room the whole time if you unclick that. You can say that the breakout room closes automatically after a certain amount of time. So if you were doing like really tight facilitation and you're going to be like, you're going to have 5 minutes to go talk about reptiles, mammals, or birds, and then they're going to close automatically. You could set that up, or you can just do the timing and I can end it whenever it feels right or fits in our time, which is what I normally do. Notify you when time is up. That tells the host like, hey, that 5 minutes is about to end. Countdown after the breakout room closes. The host will end the breakout rooms and it'll say like the host has ended the breakout rooms, and it'll start a countdown clock from 60 seconds as the default if you have that checked, and you can change that. You can add extra rooms and leave them empty. Like this 4th breakout room doesn't have anybody in it, but maybe later on more people join and you want to put people in it, so you can have extra rooms and you can just like add an extra room. Here's what the menu kind of looks like. And if I'm like, oh God, Jared and Mario cannot be in the same room, I can move Jared and move to breakout room 2, or exchange Jared for Adrian, or whatever that looks like. So those are what the kind of host controls look like. Obviously, this is with like a pretty small number of people, but it's the same controls for everything. Finally, I, as the host, can move in and out of any breakout rooms, but I do not have an all-knowing God's eye view of breakout rooms. I can broadcast a message to the breakout rooms, but it only shows up for 15 seconds, so don't put a lot of things. Like if it was like, now switch to sharing your favorite reptile, bird, or mammal, I could say that and it would show up in everybody's screen for 15 seconds, and then I might show one that's like, we're gonna close the breakout rooms in a minute, and that would show up to everybody. Participants can ask for help, and it will just say like, Zoe in room 2 is asking for help. And I can either join that room or say like, I will help you later, and it'll just be like, the host has said they're helping you later. It doesn't tell me what Zoe wants help with. It doesn't tell me, you know, Zoe's sound's not working, or Maggie's bullying me. Like it won't tell you what kind of help they need, so you can go visit them or not. When you're in your breakout rooms, the chat is to everyone in the breakout room only. So if you're writing about birds because you're in the bird room, the mammal group isn't going to see that. I recommend having slightly bigger groups than you might normally have in real life. So like if you were like, turn to your neighbor and talk about birds, I wouldn't do pairs, because if I pair off people right now and Melissa gets paired with Darlene, that might be great and lovely, but Darlene's camera's off right now, and Darlene might be like going and heating up lunch. And then Melissa will be like, oh, no one was with me in my breakout room to talk about birds, or whatever they're supposed to do. So I would say like if it's pairs, put them in groups of 3 or 4, so that if one person's not there, it's okay. And if it's like normally a group of 4, put them in groups of like 5 or 6. So just like, that's just like more of a social consideration. Share your contact info. Like I'll just have my email up in a minute when we go into breakout rooms for a couple minutes really quick, so that like if you're like, oh God, I got jumped from the meeting, there's not much I can do, but I can be like, go ahead and join again and I'll stick you in a breakout room. And then definitely have a co-host that can help. And then like give a clear prompt of what you're actually going to do in the breakout rooms. So here, we're going to try it in a second. So there's my email address. In case anything happens, I'll have my email screen up, emily@wildlysupportive.com. If you have any major tech issues that you think I can help you with, get into your rooms, introduce yourself. We only have 10 minutes left of this training, so I'm not going to keep you in there very long. It'll probably be like 5 minutes. You could share your name, your pronouns, and where you're calling from, maybe why you're here, maybe some interesting or fun thing you've learned, read, watched, ate, listened to, or experienced since mid-March. And are there any practical questions before I set you into breakout rooms? Maggie, what we got? Do we have anything?
We have how you create an extra room, but I assume that's just adding another when you're in that management. And
Yep.
then do they get recorded?
The breakout rooms follow, I believe, the main space only. So they wouldn't be recorded individually, separately. So yeah, that's also why I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna record this, but then I got a lot of requests to record it. So there will just be like a blank space basically. I'm gonna hang out in the lobby in the main room right now when I make your breakout rooms. So if you want to come back, you totally can. Thanks for the link to the slides again, Maggie. So yeah, just get in there, say hi to each other. We're probably going to be in there for like 4 minutes. You're going to have 6 people in your room, so you're not going to have very long just to get a feel for it. And then come back and we can ask questions. And I can stick around after the time's officially up for people to ask questions and stuff too. But yeah. And you can set a bunch of co-hosts and have them in each room in a breakout room. Yeah, like if this was like with kids or a really public audience, like that's probably what I would do. When you make the extra room, do you have that after everyone is already assigned to a space and it remains extra? Yeah, it'll just be there. And like, so what might happen is like, if we did this earlier in the session, we might have like 4 people join the call. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna throw you in that extra breakout room. You know, like, oh, you guys are joined, like probably right now everybody's leaving to go to lunch and stuff like that. So I can like add a room. I'll do it right now. I'll add a room. There's nobody assigned to it. I'm going to open the rooms. Y'all are going to be sent to breakout rooms. It's going to give you a prompt. You're going to meet your breakout room friends. You're going to say hi to them. I'm going to tell you like 2 more minutes pretty quickly, and then I'll do the countdown and we'll all end up back here together. Everybody feel comfortable, excited, ready for it? All right. See you on the other side. Y'all came back early. That's totally fine. I'm going to close the rooms. So they're going to get a 60-second warning that the rooms are closed, and then come on back.
Emily, is this like the breakout rooms, is it something that you have to set up all on the back end before you start the meeting, or can you like manipulate them during your meeting?
Yeah, in fact, like you can't really set it up ahead of, you have to turn it on if you ever want to use it. So now I have it turned on my account. I would say 90 or more % of my meetings don't have breakout rooms, right? Like most of the time it's just like, you know, like when we talk or lunch and learn or whatever, and I don't use breakout rooms, but I could. And there really isn't much setup you can do in advance unless you have all of the participants that are in the call linked accounts. So most of it I just did right now. I like pushed the button. I was like, let's start breakout rooms. It was like, cool, you have 42 people on this call. What if we put them in 7 rooms and then there'll be 6 people? I was like, that sounds great to me. Or I could have done the thing where I was like, oh, this person really needs to be in this type of room or whatever, you know. But I didn't do that because it was just random. So I hope you liked your new friends that you randomly got assigned to. And yeah, and then I can open all rooms. I can open the rooms again. So like if we were doing a session where it like mattered, like, okay, now you're gonna get back in your breakout rooms and you're gonna draw your favorite bird, reptile, or mammal. I could put you back in the same rooms, or I can recreate the rooms and switch it up in a different prompt if we were talking about different things. So it tells me right now, like I have that little screen up and it says that like there was a room that had Caitlin, Jessica, Julia, Kim, Maggie, and Rosalie in it. So I could be like, okay, let's open those rooms again, or, you know, recreate random ones. Yeah.
Can I add one little thing that we learned the hard way with breakout rooms? You've already said, you know, like the chat is not going to be the same. I was on a part of a conference and they had these complicated questions they wanted us to talk about. And they didn't remind us to take a screenshot of it or make any effort to have a host go in and put the questions in the chat. So we're all forced into these breakout rooms and none of us had really written anything down. And nobody from who was running the training was in there. And we just wasted pretty much, like we sat literally for 2 minutes staring at each other and then finally started introducing. But by the time we figured it out, we answered 1 out of 4 questions. So yeah, that I've learned the hard way. Like I've never seen anybody use that message option. I didn't know that was an option, but definitely either have people take a screenshot or put it in the email or have them write it down, because if not, it's very embarrassing.
Yes, great point. I'm a big fan, as you probably have already seen, of sharing like a Google Drive doc or slides or something you can access that's like separate from the Zoom session. And I know like that's obviously like easier to do if you have 2 monitors and things like that, but at least it's somewhere so that you can follow along. So like Maggie shared the slide link right before we jumped into our breakout rooms, which is super handy. Yeah, and I would just like recommend like, yeah, keeping that in mind. And yeah, those broadcast messages are really, I don't have any, I can type whatever, but it's only 15 seconds. So like if you put like really long questions, y'all would be like lost anyway. So great point to pay attention to. Did anybody try to use a whiteboard in your breakout room? I'm pretty sure you can, but I can't, I keep on meaning to do that. So I should have told y'all to play with that. But I'm pretty sure like in a breakout room, you can open your own whiteboard, but you'll have to try that. We'll have to try that in the future together. In the last minute, I'm gonna talk very quickly about closed captioning and break some hearts. And then I'll also stay on to answer questions or have discussions. I'm happy to stick around. But basically, there is a closed caption setting in Zoom. You can turn on closed captions in Zoom, technically. What that means is that then the host will have a button that says closed captions, and I can click it, and it says, who do you want to make type captions? And then so I can say like, all right, Heather, you made a face, so I guess it's you. And then Heather's gonna have to type as fast as I talk, which is pretty fast, and I say a lot of things. And so like she would generate the captions for our call. So if you have someone that you've like contracted with or has that skill, or maybe you've talked ahead of time and you're like, hey, Heather, you don't have to caption everything I say, but can you just like put the main points, and like kind of take notes, and that'll create a caption document. So that might be a useful, workaround. Or you pay someone just like you would pay a sign language interpreter or a captioner to actually come to your meeting and like do your captioning. So that is a feature that they're definitely like getting a lot of feedback about, like, and if you want to email Zoom and tell them like, can you make closed captioning better? Can you make it not just like, it's you, Anna, type as fast as you can, as accurately as you can. That's kind of the current reality of captioning in Zoom. So unfortunately, like I would love all of my meetings to be captioned, and I don't have the budget to ask people to do that. So some workarounds are you can like use Google's Live Transcribe, which again, you'll have the link to for this, and you could open that in a side window and it'll pick up, it's a robot that'll pick up the audio and it'll be trying to, live transcribe as well as it can. And there'll be mistakes just like any automated transcription thing, but it might be better than nothing. I attended the American Alliance of Museums conference, which was like over 3,000 people registered. It was all on Zoom and other like web-based platforms. They used Vitac for their captioning, and they paid a lot of money to do that. And it was apparently like I wrote to them and it's like, what did you use? What do you recommend? And they were like, this is the one we recommend. And they also were like, don't use these other ones. So if you have questions about closed captioning, let me know. There are other closed captioning devices and third-party things. So you can use other stuff for that. Really quick, just since we're getting to noon and I'm happy to stay on. Again, I'm going to forward all of this info to you, but stay in touch. Feel free to email me. I'm happy to take calls and consulting questions. I also have a Calendly set up so that at any point you can go to calendly.com/eWorts and just make a 30-minute appointment with me during my week that we can chat about your Zoom or whatever needs. Or if you're just like, wow, I just want to talk to you. I miss you so much after we spent that Thursday morning together. You can do that there. So I'm going to stop screen share. I'm going to jump into chat. What questions do folks have? If you want to come off mute and say hi or goodbye.
I put in a long question in chat.
Great. I love it.
Yeah. You want me to just ask my question?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so I was in a Zoom class just yesterday actually, and or the day before, and the teacher was new to Zoom and not a techie. She's an art instructor. And so she switched to demonstrate something, and unfortunately we could not get her attention because we couldn't hear her. So she did the whole 10 minutes of demo without noticing that we were holding up sheets of paper to the screen, hoping she would at least look up or something. The techie tried to call her, text her, tried to email her, just tried any way he could. And she did say that she could hear him, but she thought he was talking to someone else. And although he kept saying Pat, 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 or her name. And so I was just wondering, is there any suggestion about, I mean, obviously the teacher should probably kind of check to make sure, but is there any suggestion that you have?
I mean, it sounds like y'all did all you can and went above and beyond. I mean, my suggestion would always be like the nice thing is like I have wonderful friends and colleagues, and like I think if that was happening, Maggie would probably call me and Heather and Melissa and on this call.
Call her, but You know, she probably
Right.
has
And
to
I think
draw.
part of that is, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people who are just like, well, I have to figure out how to use this. And they're jumping in and using it, which like I'm all about, like, just figure it out. But
Mhm.
also like, you know, if you're doing public things, like have some backups and have, you know, like, so
Yeah.
I think unfortunately some of it is just like, yeah, like just,
Maybe
you know,
just make
check
for
in
them
more.
aware to check more. and
Yeah.
maybe that's
Can
it.
I
Okay.
pop in? Because
Yeah.
this happened in an art class I was in. If you go to the upper right-hand corner of your little picture, there's 3 dots. If you click on the 3 dots and you hit pin video, you can make yourself bigger, but you can also go to the other person and click the pin video, and whoever it is you select, you can make them big on your screen, and then you can see everything.
Oh, that's not the problem. We couldn't hear her.
Oh, you couldn't hear her.
Attention
Yeah.
to color
Sorry.
that we
I
couldn't hear
couldn't
her.
see
But thank you.
what she was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that in some ways, like if I was like doing a thing where I wasn't able to look at the screen, right? Like if I was showing you a snake on a document camera or showing a, you know, if I was showing you an art clip, if I was drawing something and I had a camera mounted a different way, which I'll show you in a second, if you want to see that, and I wasn't noticing that, I could like pin Maggie's video. That's not a bad idea. And then if she's like, you know,
Yeah.
like I might notice, even though I'm like looking down and drawing, I'd be like, oh, something is not right, you know? So
Yeah,
but
maybe
yeah.
have some kind of emotion that when you
Right.
see that, you know something's
Yeah.
wrong. That's
Yeah,
a good
totally.
idea.
Yeah. And we have another recommendation for captions in the chat, so that's great. I'll pull out the links and stuff that people recommend and send
Okay.
those out in email as well. So if you want to save the chat, you should be able to, in your chat window, it says like to everyone by default, and then file, and then next to that there's a ... You can click on that ... and save chat, and then it'll create a file of this chat as you experience chat, and it'll save that. So
Well, Emily,
Great. Yeah.
when you as you know, I have problems with my computer apparently, and so I had to exit out, shut down my computer, get back in. So the
Yeah.
first half of the chat, I was trying to save it, but I couldn't get to it. So can you share that with?
Yeah,
there-
I can share. Yeah,
Right.
I'll share. I'll pull out all the stuff that's not just like, thanks, I gotta go to
Right,
lunch,
right,
you know, like
right.
just all the links and stuff. I'll send that out in email. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anybody else have questions or things to add? Any great ways, any resources that you've seen that are amazing?
I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's when as an instructor and for you as a viewer, a participant, when you put us in the breakout rooms and we came back, I have an extra pop-out screen that I didn't have before of the speaker view. And when you shared your screen for that last slide, it only showed up on that pop-up screen. And if I had closed it, I would not have been able, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to see your shared screen. And then the other second part of this, when I was trying to host a class, when I would share a screen and then exit shared screen, all of my screens would move around and everything would be different. And it would take me aback, and I couldn't always find where I needed to be with the students. So how?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
just a,
Unfortunately, that's just like the default. So like if I go to full screen mode, if I share my screen, it automatically forces everybody to go full screen, which I don't like. Like I wish it was never full screen, honestly. And I have 2 monitors. I'm using my laptop, and like that's what I'm like looking at and using the camera. And then I have another monitor next to me where I have like the slideshow and stuff. So like that's like great tech privilege, right? To be able to like I can pull out the chat and put it over here and put out the, you know, breakout room screen and all those things. But also every time I switch to share my screen and then don't unshare my screen, it goes back and forth and it changes everything around. So like it's annoying. And it's kind of like one of the things that I've just gotten used to, being on 20 hours of Zoom a week since the middle of March or more, just like getting familiar with those layouts. So yeah, I don't have a good answer. I wish it didn't change the view as nearly as much, because I also find it to be very jarring.
Emily,
Yeah.
if I may ask a question for you or for anybody, I'm interested in finding a good alternative to Zoom's whiteboard, a third-party whiteboard that is either much more limited or not anonymous. And I've tried bookwidgets.com. I don't know if anyone's tried that or if you have others you recommend.
I don't know about limited. I know about a lot that are way more features, like Miro and Mural, which are very similar sounding names. Miro. And Mural, like if you go out and see a beautiful mural, those are two that I've played a little bit with. I don't know if other folks have played with anything. Obviously, there's like some really basic drawing tools in some of the like, you know, shared document things like Google Drive, but it would be very simple. I don't know if anybody else has.
Yeah, it's if I can add, I have it's kind of an app on my phone. It's just called Simple Whiteboard. And it's just a simple one where I can select markers down here at the bottom and just write on it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just called Simple Whiteboard. It's an app on
Nice.
Apple.
I'm looking for something that it would be ideal for, you know, elementary, using it with elementary students that, or well, middle school students or anybody really,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
where it's not anonymous.
Okay. Yeah, I'll dig around a little bit, and if I find anything, I'll email it out to y'all. And if anybody else has stuff, that would be wonderful to share. Recommendations for a wireless lapel mic. I don't have specific lapel mic suggestions, but yeah, I can email you, Chris. But I just have this headset that's wireless. And I do have some information about that on that wildlysupportive.com/Zoom. I have links to like best-ish or recommended headsets and things like that, and microphones and webcams. I will say, even still, it's better than it was, but even still, a lot of that stuff is sold out because everybody's doing this right now. And like for a while, the cheapest webcam you could get was like $700, and don't pay $700 for a webcam. Now you can sort of find them, but you might have to shop around a little bit. It's not great. But if you have specific questions about tech stuff, I can definitely like shoot you in some right directions. But so far I've been like reluctant to be like, this is the headset to buy, because it's like, I don't even know if you can find that. Mostly it's like, try different things. This is a Bluetooth headset, but it also is wireless through a dongle. And I will tell you that in every experience, wireless sounds better than Bluetooth. So I have my Bluetooth turned off on my phone or on my computer. And mostly like, my husband has his office in another room in our little house, and we just like tried out different headphones and we're like, how does that one sound? And then I like brought him to him and I was like, oh yeah, that one sounds terrible. So like, you know, you might have to do a little bit of like playing around with one other person and seeing how the sound quality is. Anything else? Other questions? Recommendations? I hope it was helpful. Again, I'll share this really quick. This is my slide deck for Zoom settings. So if you haven't been to my basic Zoom training, which I don't have any scheduled, but I can schedule one again, it's a really boring slide deck, but it's super useful because it has, hopefully, all of the different Zoom settings and why you might set them like that. So like it will say things like, you know, those ones are boring. Don't worry about, like, you have to turn chat on, and you can turn on private chat or not, and things like that. So like this link again is at wildlysupportive.com/Zoom, and it's like the Zoom settings slide deck, and it's just like all of the Zoom settings that you ever have and why I have them set that way and why you might want or not want them to be able to do that. So my recommendation, and there's always people on here at this point, is to like go and get your Pro Zoom account and then go through the settings and the slide deck and like make them line up like that. Whether or not you choose to do different things, that's totally fine. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. Great to see you.
you.
Thanks for all your participation.
Bye. Bye.